November 9, 1983. In a secret underground bunker in Moscow, extreme tension among the top officials of the KGB, one after another. Flash or extremely urgent messages are arriving from their agents stationed in Western Europe. According to the messages, the highest level of alert, DEFCON 1, has been declared at American nuclear bases across Europe. Aircraft carrying nuclear bombs are taking fuel directly on the runway without engineering inspections. Everything indicates an imminent nuclear first strike. In the Kremlin, the leader of the Soviet Union and former head of the KGB, Yuri Andropov, is facing an unimaginable situation. Will he wait for an American attack, or will he order a preemptive nuclear strike to protect the existence of his country, while ordinary people of the world are busy with their daily lives? Behind the scenes, because of a few misunderstandings and growing suspicion, the world had come extremely close to nuclear destruction, something that had not happened since the Cuban Missile Crisis. How a routine military exercise almost started World War III, and how the people of the world unknowingly survived this disaster. In today's episode, we will learn in full detail about that most dangerous and almost unknown chapter of the Cold War. To understand the background of this story, we have to go back to the early 1980s. This was a new and extremely heated phase of the Cold War, which many historians call the Second Cold War. Distrust and hostility between the two superpowers were at their peak within the leadership of the Soviet Union. A kind of unhealthy and disturbed mindset was working. After the death of Leonid Brezhnev, former KGB chief Yuri Andropov came to power. Andropov literally believed that the United States was planning a sudden nuclear first strike to destroy the Soviet leadership. His belief was so deep that he started a massive intelligence operation. The codename of this operation was Operation Ryan. Its purpose was to collect information through KGB agents around the world that could indicate an impending American attack. Because of this operation, KGB agents began to find signs of attack conspiracies in everything, which created a kind of confirmation bias. On the other hand, in the White House, President Ronald Reagan was in power. Reagan was known for his strong anti-Soviet position. He called the Soviet Union an evil empire and announced the largest peacetime military budget in American history. He planned to create an ambitious missile defense system called the Strategic Defense Initiative (SDI), or Star Wars, which would destroy Soviet missiles from space. To the Soviets, these steps were extremely aggressive and strengthened their belief that America was preparing for war. The year 1983 was especially tense. In September, the Soviet military shot down a South Korean passenger aircraft, Carla 07, because they mistakenly thought it was an American intelligence aircraft. In this incident, 269 innocent passengers were killed. In response, the United States deployed advanced nuclear missiles called Pershing II in West Germany, which could strike Moscow within just 10 minutes. These events made both sides more suspicious and aggressive toward each other. In this extreme tension, NATO organized one of its annual military exercises called Able Archer. It was a command post exercise, meaning that instead of real troops or weapons, a war simulation was conducted from headquarters. Its purpose was to test how NATO would decide to use nuclear weapons in a nuclear crisis and how effective that process would be. This exercise was held every year, but the 1983 exercise was different from any previous time and was extremely concerning for the Soviets. There were several reasons. First, in Able Archer 83, for the first time, a full-scale war simulation was conducted. It started from a normal conflict and gradually escalated from DEFCON 5, peacetime condition, to DEFCON 1, an imminent nuclear war. This extreme realism created suspicion in the minds of the Soviets. Second, for the first time, highly secret and new generation coded communication systems were used in this exercise. Soviet intelligence could not break these codes, which increased their concern even more. Third, for the first time, direct participation of heads of state was included in the exercise. Leaders like British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and West German Chancellor Helmut Kohl took part in this simulation, which made the exercise far more serious than a normal drill. Additionally, during one phase of the exercise, NATO forces observed radio silence. This is a standard procedure just before launching a real nuclear attack, even as part of the exercise. American nuclear bases in Europe increased their alert level step by step from the outside. It was impossible to distinguish between a fake alert and a real alert. All these events together created the belief in the Soviet Union that Able Archer 83 might not be a normal exercise, but rather a cover for a real nuclear attack. When KGB agents across Europe started observing these unusual events, they began sending urgent messages to Moscow headquarters one after another. The information they sent was alarming. They reported that NATO was not just conducting an exercise there. Activities matched exactly with real war preparations. When this information was compared with the predefined checklist of Operation Ryan, analysts of the KGB and GRU became worried. They were seeing almost all the signs they were looking for to them. It seemed that the West was truly preparing for a surprise nuclear attack. In response, the Soviet military took extreme precautionary measures. Nuclear-capable aircraft in East Germany and Poland were equipped with live warheads and kept ready to take off. Within 30 minutes, the Soviet Union's most powerful nuclear missile, SS-20, was also kept on maximum alert. The Soviet Fourth Air Army in the Baltic region was prepared for war. The KGB ordered all its agents that their main task would be to find final proof of an imminent nuclear attack. All other work was stopped. The Soviet Union was sitting with its finger on the trigger. Any small misunderstanding or wrong information could have started a full-scale nuclear war. At the moment when the world was unknowingly standing at the edge of destruction, one person played a crucial role in resolving this crisis. His name was Oleg Gordievsky. Gordievsky was a high-ranking KGB colonel and the head of the KGB station in London, but he was a double agent. Secretly, he was working for the British intelligence agency MI6. Because of his dual role, he found himself in a unique situation. On one side, he was seeing the urgent and fearful messages coming from Moscow. On the other side, he had direct communication with British intelligence. Gordievsky understood that the fear and paranoia in the Kremlin were not fake. They truly believed that America was about to attack. He quickly informed his Mi-6 handlers about this dangerous situation. He reported that the Soviet Union was not playing any game. They were genuinely afraid and preparing for a nuclear attack. This information was extremely valuable because until then, American and British intelligence had assumed Soviet military activity was routine. They did not understand how afraid the Soviet leadership actually was. Gordievsky's warning opened their eyes. They realized that they had unknowingly provoked a sleeping bear and the situation was going out of control. Based on Gordievsky's information, Western leaders likely took steps to calm the situation. NATO ended the exercise on November 11, 1983, according to schedule, without any escalation. When the Soviets saw that the exercise had ended and no attack had happened, they gradually lowered their alert levels, and the world returned from the brink of a Terrible nuclear war, but ordinary. People of the world knew nothing about this. This event had a deep and lasting impact on President Ronald Reagan when he was informed in detail about the crisis and the real fear of the Soviets. He was genuinely shocked, he wrote in his diary, that the Soviets were so afraid of a first strike that they might do something reckless. This realization brought a major change in Reagan's mindset. He moved away from aggressive rhetoric like evil empire and became interested in direct dialogue and arms control agreements with the Soviet Union. This change later helped him sit in historic meetings with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev and paved the way for the end of the Cold War. Now coming back to Oleg Gordievsky in 1985, the KGB discovered his betrayal, but with the help of Mi-6, he managed to escape from the Soviet Union in a dramatic operation. Recently, in March 2025, this double agent passed away, the able archer. 1983 crisis was a war scare that proved how dangerously the world was walking on a thin line during the Cold War, although it did not gain as much recognition as the Cuban Missile Crisis. Many experts believe it was possibly the most dangerous moment of the late Cold War. The biggest irony is that the military exercise designed to prepare for nuclear war almost started a real nuclear war.